Hey there everyone, I'm so happy to be here at the GatherVerse Africa, and I am Alex Pryor. I represent EOH, which is one of Africa's largest ICT service providers, and I head up digital innovation, which means that I have the coolest job in the world. I get to play with new technology, I get to look at future tech trends, and I get to see how they fit into our world, how they can make our worlds better, both for ourselves, for our customers, for our communities, and ultimately for our continent. And that's really what I'm here to talk to you today about Africa, and about the art of the possible in Africa. Now, when we think of Africa, a few stats do come to mind. The first is that it is the second largest continent, both in terms of landmass, but also in terms of population size. We're second in both respects only to Asia. But did you know that we are also the world, as from a continent perspective, the world's second largest Bitcoin market? Yeah, seriously. From an adoption point of view, Africa is way ahead of some of the more advanced countries because we need it. We are way ahead in terms of mobile money. When M-Pesa was launched in Kenya a few years ago, it revolutionized how we on the African continent thought about money, how we thought about digital money. And beyond that, the population of Africa is the youngest population in the world. In fact, between 60 and 70% of the population sit in Gen Alpha or Gen Z, which means that they're under the age of about 26 years old. And that, from a technological standpoint, is actually amazing. What that means is that you have a majority marketplace of people who are already using technology in their everyday lives, who expect to use technology in their everyday lives. These are the people who are creating content, who are engaging with different content, with different people globally. These are the people who are creating amazing startups for their communities and beyond. And Africa is something else. It's forgotten. Whenever you look at news or information around the Web3 space, be it metaverse, be it blockchain, be it cryptocurrency, digital assets, self-sovereign identity, any of these things, you don't hear about Africa. Now, you might occasionally hear about the big VC investment into some company, but in general, you just don't hear about it. And quick story time here. A few weeks ago, I was at a couple of conferences, one around innovation. There was another one around the cryptocurrency. Yet another one was actually looking at township tech in particular. And I'll tell you something, I was embarrassed. I've been in this space for more than 2 years, deeply in the space, looking at Web3 and looking at their technology from a corporate perspective for more than 2 years. And I recognized all the big names. I recognized the Binances, I recognized the FTX. I recognized all the big guys. And I did not recognize more than half of the amazing African-based and African-started companies. And these aren't just brand new startups. These are guys who are doing exceptionally well in their space. And I didn't know who they were. And that, for me, is embarrassing. And honestly, it tells us that as a country, as a continent, we tend to ignore our own achievements. I mean, honestly, who out there in the audience can name 3 African-started, African-based Web3 companies? Who can name 5? Who can name 10? Now, if you think about that beyond our borders, who can name the same number of global companies? Willing to bet, most of you, the global companies are going to be easier to name. And that's because there's something that we lack in Africa in this space. We lack a community. Web3, one of the values and principles that it is built on is that it is community built. It is community first. It is not corporate first. It's not even individual first. It's community first. But as Africans, we don't have a community. We aren't working together. We aren't promoting one another. We aren't sharing knowledge. We aren't sharing successes. We're just quietly doing what the rest of the world does and pretending we're not there. And that has to stop. Africa has the most amazing innovative ideas. They're doing the most innovative things in technology. The township conference I mentioned earlier was in Khayelitsha here in Cape Town, at the very bottom of the continent. And one of the presenters there is from a company called Pryor. But what they've done is they have built a takeaway platform, so you can order, your burger or your pizza, that works on WhatsApp. But beyond that, you can pay for it in crypto. You can pay for it in fiat as well, but you can pay for it in crypto. I can't even do that on my regular app on which I order my pizza or my burgers. That's just amazing. They've done it on WhatsApp because the community there has limited access to data, has limited access to applications, but they all use WhatsApp. Now that is innovative thinking. In fact, if we look at the top 14 or 15 startups in Africa, about 12 or 13 of them are based around finance, or based around payments. And that's because as Africa, we know how difficult the traditional banking system can be for us. But a cryptocurrency, a blockchain-based platform, that makes life so much easier because it's instant send. Africa are early adopters for a very, very good reason. In fact, we had 6 countries were in the top 50 list of crypto adopters globally last year. We've seen a 1,200% increase in crypto adoption. That's amazing. And you might say, hey Alex, this is a metaverse conference, why are you talking crypto? Because it's all a part of the same ecosystem. And if we are going to build Africa's profile, if we are going to show the world that we are the ones who are not only going to force this revolution into its parabolic curve from an adoption perspective, but we are the ones who are going to drive it, we have to start talking about it. We have to start building this community. And what does that look like? Well, if I take my township example, it starts within your community and talking to the people in your community. Then it starts around sharing stories. It starts about sharing stories on social media. And yes, they're Web 2, but that's okay. Whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Twitter, whether it is TikTok, whether it's YouTube, share the stories of the companies and the people in Africa who are doing good work, who are doing innovative work. Share the stories about the adoption. Share the stories about the fact that we do not still have wild animals walking down the streets in our cities, that we have cities and skyscrapers. It shocks me to my core when I still meet people who come here and they're absolutely enamored with Africa. It's wonderful. But it's not the experience they were expecting. They seem to think we're still 200 or 300 years behind where we actually are. And we currently have around 5% from a representation point of view. We represent about 5% of the global tech market. Can you imagine what would happen if that was pushed up? If we enabled the people on the continent who are already using the tech to build more, to do more, to share more, to engage more? Can you imagine what would happen if we got Africans involved in Africa and took it beyond? Because we have some unique problems here. But that doesn't mean the technology on which they built cannot be utilized in the first world. So my challenge to you today, let's build this community. The Web3 revolution has started. It is inevitable. What it looks like, we don't know. But we have an opportunity as the continent with the largest group of early adopters in terms of in generation. We are the continent who needs and desperately wants to be able to use this type of technology. We're the continent who can drive this. We are the continent who can make it happen. And that is only going to happen if we talk about it, if we talk to each other, if we support and we promote one another. So I encourage you all to join the Africa Web3 Revolution by talking about each other, by promoting each other, and by supporting each other. Your homework for today, go and find 5 African-started, African-owned, African-run Web3 companies. Learn about them and post about them on your social media. The revolution starts here, the revolution starts today, and you are going to help us do it. I'm in the comments, I'm in the chats. Please reach out to me either here or on LinkedIn. If you're interested in some of the companies doing amazing things, I'm more than happy to have a chat about it. But we need to stop being the forgotten continent. It's time for Africa to take its rightful place, center stage, and Web3 and metaverse and blockchain and crypto is how it's going to happen. Thank you so much.